My name is Marcia Rakestraw. I'm one of the co-founding board members of Northwest Veg, which is the local veg group here in the Portland area, and our mission is to help create a humane world by promoting a plant-based diet. In addition, I work for an organization called the Institute for Humane Education. I'm their web content and community manager and one of the advisors for their online courses. I'm also a graduate of their certificate program for the Institute for Humane Education, and I'll talk more about IHE a little later. I'm also a freelance humane educator here in the Portland area, giving humane education presentations on a variety of topics. And I'm in the process of starting a humane education program called Power of One Humane Education with a couple of friends and colleagues, one of whom is here in the audience. So we'll be giving humane education presentations to school groups and community groups and other sorts of organizations. I also have a background as an educator and teacher. I have taught pre-K through graduate level courses. So that's a little bit about me. Today's focus is going to be on the fact that humane education is an incredibly powerful tool for positive change, and we as animal protection advocates ignore it at our peril, at the animal's peril and at the peril of our world. So let's begin with a little bit of humane education. I need 2 volunteers who are willing to take your shoes off and be uncomfortable for a small amount of time. Do I have a couple of volunteers? Ramona, can I have one other? Thanks. Okay, so if you take your shoes off and come on up, and I'm going to ask you to stand on these crates, and I'm going to ask you to stand on the edges. Be careful about standing in the centers. I don't want you to fall through. And I would like you to just stand still with your hands at your sides and stay there. If this becomes too incredibly uncomfortable, I do want you to get down, but I would like it if you can stay up there until I check back with you. Okay? Great. So we're going to leave them there, and we're going to go on for a little while. So I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, humane education as a philosophy and a tool can be used with any number of audiences for any number of topics. But today I'm primarily focusing on using humane education in educational settings. So at school, after school programs, summer camps, primarily with youth. And when I'm talking about education, obviously we are educated throughout our entire lives, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm focusing on our schooling years, like the K through college years. But of course, you can do humane education with adult audiences. I do that all the time. Hi, welcome, come on in.
Hi.
But I just wanted to make that stipulation for this particular presentation. We're focusing on humane education in those 2 contexts. So, what happened to my graphic? There we go. What's the big deal about education? Why focus on education? Well, because education is incredibly powerful. When we're being educated during our schooling years, we're learning knowledge, so it's adding to our knowledge base. It's influencing the lenses through which we see the world and the way that we learn to frame the world. It's a time when we're formulating a lot of our values, and it really sets the stage for how we live our lives and the kinds of things that we give priority to. So there's a lot of power in what we're learning during our prime education years. Just as a negative example of the power of education, think back to the Native Americans and the Australian Aborigines. When the colonists wanted to wipe out their cultures, what did they do? They picked up the kids and they sent them to school and taught them a whole different set of standards and a whole different way of learning, basically destroying their cultures through the power of education. So what exactly is humane education? Well, what does it mean to be humane? What's the word humane mean? Yeah?
Treat as if human.
Treat as if human. Other ideas?
Treat the way you would want to be treated.
Treat the way you would want to be treated. Any other thoughts? Well, the literal definition is having what are considered the best qualities of being human. That's a literal dictionary definition of humane. So when we ask people, well, what is it to be humane? What does that mean? We get responses like all these sorts of words. So at least through the lens of the Institute for Humane Education, humane education focuses on creating a humane world for everyone, all people, all animals, and the planet. And we do that by providing people with the tools, the motivation, the skills, and the knowledge to make choices that do the most good and the least harm for all people, animals, and the planet, both through their personal choices and in creating positive systemic change. 4 elements to humane education. The first is providing accurate information. I know I've heard that in other talks this weekend. Providing accurate information is really critical, making sure that it is credible information. One of the things that we tell people when we're providing presentations is don't believe a word I say, don't take my word for it, go out and investigate for yourself. The second element are the 3 C's, fostering curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking, so that people aren't just accepting what they're hearing. They're learning to be curious, they're learning to ask questions, they're learning to synthesize and analyze information and the media that comes to them and the advertising that comes to them. They're thinking about the impact of their choices. The third element is instilling reverence, respect, and responsibility, the 3 R's. So we are encouraging people to make connections with other people, with the natural world, with animals, learning to care about them. When you care about something, you're more likely to want to protect it and to take positive action. And the 4th element of humane education is offering positive choices and tools. So you don't want to just give people a whole bunch of really depressing negative information. Look at this hellish world we're in. Look at all the suffering and the destruction and the cruelty and the hatred. Isn't that awful? We've got to provide people with positive choices and let them know that there are positive things that they can do. What humane education is not, is it is not indoctrination. It's not about telling people what to think, what to believe, what to feel. It's not about pushing a particular narrow agenda, and it's certainly not about being confrontational. It is about, as I said, providing people with accurate information, helping them to think critically and make connections, and to make positive choices. And when you do that, people are much more likely to make choices that support and nurture compassion and kindness and justice and sustainability, because most people don't want a world that's filled with hatred and destruction and cruelty and injustice. That's not what they want. They want that positive world. But they don't have the information about it, they don't know about the impact that their choices are making, and they don't know how to change the systems that have them mired in making those same destructive negative choices. So, how are you all doing?
So.
How are your feet?
Kind of very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. So could you stay up there for the rest of the presentation?
I'd rather not.
Like pay $1?
No.
How about like for a week or a year? If you guys got, we could have like a conveyor belt here, and if you got hungry or thirsty, you could have the food or water. If you needed to go to the bathroom, you could just go and it would go through the slats. So.
Sounds awesome!
How would you feel about each other if you had to hang out so close?
I bet I'd start pecking her.
Okay, why don't you all go ahead and get down very carefully. I know how that feels because I've done that. Let's thank our volunteers. Thank you. And obviously they were simulating what?
Chicken.
Right. Chickens in battery cages and how much it hurts for their feet to be on those metal cages. Or it can also be pigs who are in those concrete stalls. That's also really hard on their feet. Right, so that's just a little tidbit of humane education. We're going to do another little tidbit now by taking a survey. How many of you have eaten cows before? Cows before, sorry. Chickens? Turkeys? Pigs? Rabbits? Fewer hands, but okay. Insects? Couple. Okay. What about dogs? You may have, yeah. Cats? Okay. Whales? What about gorillas? Okay. As you might imagine, I don't think anybody in this particular audience, well, at least not intentionally, raised their hand for dogs, cats, gorillas, or whales. Why is that?
Our society doesn't eat those.
Our society here in the United States doesn't eat those.